Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the Johnny Vita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, September the 13th, the year 2023. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And to start our today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Well, good evening, John, and welcome, and all you fine rail fans out there. Hopefully, we will be able to entertain you with some really good stuff. If not, you're going to be stuck with the plain old stuff. I am Brian Valou, a retired railroader, retired sailor, and even like still to play with trains. And on my right, Mr. Ron Messner.
I'm Ron Messner, and I'm a Garden Railroad, and I've got exciting news to talk about. Ooh, yes.
I am Dave DeRusca. I'm a retired railroader and retired hippie.
You're more the hippie than me.
Yeah, really. I am the guy who is trying to get people interested in Chicago Railroad History Month. This October 24th is the 175th anniversary of the first train to operate out of Chicago, and there is nothing planned to celebrate it. We don't have anything going, but we have posters for sale.
That's what gets me. For several years now, we were able to have the mayor proclamation.
Didn't get one.
And I know you submitted the form and everything.
Yeah, well, I think our current mayor is a little busy trying to deal with certain issues that he has no control over. So I'm not surprised. He was, and I didn't think it would happen because he's new and he's getting accustomed to the office, and he's just really busy.
He's more taking photo shoots than he's doing anything else.
Yeah, well, he doesn't look very comfortable doing that either. So, I got an email the other day from somebody who is head of a group of freight railroads in Illinois. He represents Illinois Freight Railroads, and he says I got this from somebody at the Burlington Northern, which was a press release I sent out about a month ago. He says, "What can I do to help?" I emailed him back and said, "Well, nothing really." I said there are no plans for any events. All these years we've been sending out information to people to try to interest the general public, to try to interest museums, historical societies, you name it. We've tried to get them interested, and zip, zero, zilch.
Yeah, I mean, even the historical.
Yeah, the Chicago History Museum. Well,
they've got the engine.
When I first started this, I received a very supportive letter from somebody who worked at the Historical Society, the Chicago History Museum. He died. And that was the end of that. I have sent out press releases and things to just about every media outlet. I've sent out free posters to people. Never gotten a thank you for any of those, which I was kind of surprised. I don't know, maybe they just toss them in the trash. But, nothing's happening. I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not surprised because this is Chicago, and Chicago doesn't value its history very much. I've learned that the hard way. Anybody who's been involved in historic preservation knows that Chicago doesn't honor its history. I was in charge of the Friends of the Northwestern Station, tried to save that building. That got torn down. And it just goes on. So I'm getting kind of cold on railroad history in Chicago.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is, but it is what it is, and I don't know. I was thinking of getting a sandwich board and marching down the middle of State Street and being my own parade like they had for the railroad fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize, in the late 40s, there was a Chicago Railroad Fair. It was held where
1948.
48 and 49.
I was a youngster.
Yeah, I wasn't born yet.
I was
I was the
my,
twinkle
my,
on
my
somebody.
my parents took me there.
Yeah?
I remember that it was there and some things. I remember the stage production that they did
Yeah.
and I thought that was pretty well done
Yeah.
with the of transportation and how things go that were going to the present time at that when they were what they were trying to present.
It was all organized by the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the running of the Pioneer. And they invited all the railroads in America to come and show their equipment, and it was a great event. The parade went down State Street, and Casey Jones's wife was the honorary marshal for the parade. So yeah, it was a big deal, and people don't remember that. It was
And that was all along the lakefront.
yeah, right. It's where the Century of Progress had been held.
Yeah, and the thing is, I remember it, not me, because I saw it in the 50s, from home movies that Walt Disney took.
Right.
Because Walt Disney and Ward Kimball came.
Right, and it was the impetus for his railroad at Disneyland. In fact, the whole Disneyland concept came
to
from
run
that.
his train.
Came from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how people don't want to know about history.
Right.
And what, and then when they do hear about it, they're kind of overwhelmed that really happened. Well, it did.
I don't know, who was it, Edison, that said history is bunk? That seems to be the prevailing feeling, that people really don't care. And I suppose there's other things in life that have taken precedence, and we can't expect everybody to get in line. But it surprises me, like the people like Jaffrey Bear, who does all these Chicago history programs. They didn't get a whisper from him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You were talking about this before, last year, when you were doing it.
Yeah.
Because we were all going, no, you're kidding. They're really not talking.
Really, no interest whatsoever. I guess they got their own. I realize that a lot of places have their own agenda.
Yeah.
The museums, like the Chicago History Museum, their agenda is to make money, keep the place going. So they have events and exhibits that address, unrepresented communities and certain things. So they did hold the what was it, the photo exhibit that who was it? He was a WPA photographer.
Oh, yeah, damn it.
Yeah, he had taken a lot of photos in the Chicago area, especially on the harbor, and they actually invited family members of people whose photos he had taken. And it was a big event. I went to a special opening with the Center for Railroad Photography and Art, another group that has shown absolutely no interest in highlighting. They've got thousands of photos in their collection of Chicago railroads, and I've yet to hear from them. I'd asked them, would you be willing to, have an exhibit? No. Would you be willing to put something in your magazine that you send out? Let us know the year you're going to do it. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Sorry. I can't be chasing you around.
Then why do you spend your time to take all these pictures and then you don't display them, or
again, their agenda is that they're preserving all these photo collections that they get donated to them So they're busy scanning photos and saving them and cataloging and doing that. So, I don't know. Maybe somebody along the way, when October rolls around, I'll see a article about Chicago Railroad history, which would be nice. And my whole thing was I never wanted to spearhead or be in charge of any kind of event. I wanted to convince other people to celebrate it in their own fashion.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to recreate the railroad fair. That's not going to happen. I know. But it would have been nice that there was some recognition in some fashion.
Oh, there should be. I mean,
they recognize everything else.
Yeah, I sent out, I don't know, must have been 50-some, more than 50 press releases, and I already got 6 back undeliverable. So, okay. Did the Norfolk Southern change their address? What's going on? I think because it was addressed to a specific person, they just said, kick it back. We're not interested. I was surprised that the Burlington Northern forwarded that to this guy. Mm-hmm. After I sent him that email, I haven't heard back from him. So I'm sure, he's like, well, okay then. I told him, I said, look, if you had sent me a letter a year ago, I would have said, yeah, what can we do? But, here we are. It's almost October. It's almost the 175th anniversary, and there's nothing going on. So how can you help? I said, if you have any ideas, any last-minute brilliant ideas, please let me know. Anyways.
It's not important.
No. On with the show.
Okay, enough boo-hooing.
Yeah, no more sadness.
Let's hear some exciting...
I have some exciting news. Well, you had some exciting news.
Well, yeah, about my railroad.
What about your railroad?
I'm going to have an open house this coming Sunday.
Wow.
I'm going to have 4, hopefully 5 trains running.
Yeah?
Finally, after 3 years, almost 4 years, I got help getting my track that I wouldn't have any problems. So that's exciting to me. I got and just not say, I'm Garden Railroad, and I haven't been running since 20. So now I'm running.
All right.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah. How many people are going to show up?
That's a good question. My son wanted to do an Oktoberfest with bratwurst and all that kind of stuff, and I talked to him. I said, we got to slow down here.
Yeah, let's have drunken people wandering around my Garden Railroad.
Right. Well, he said I'm part of it. We'd do it after the club open house part of it, but we'll see what happens.
You going?
Yeah.
All right.
He better show up. If he doesn't show up,
even my wife. See, my wife's going to make sure we show up.
Oh, okay.
She's a sweetheart.
To him, yeah.
Well, you live with her. I mean.
Well, here's some news.
Go on.
Here's some news. Parallel Systems unveils its second generation prototype autonomous battery electric railcar. This is a railcar that doesn't have a locomotive, that doesn't have a crew. It operates all by itself, and it can couple up with other little autonomous cars. So Parallel Systems hopes to test a second-generation prototype battery electric autonomous container cars in 2024. The company hopes we'll see pilot testing on the Genesee, Wyoming short lines in Georgia, as well with international customers. Parallel sees the new prototype as undergoing testing to verify the system's ability to operate on the conventional rail network. The goal, Parallel says, is to allow railroads to operate parallel vehicles using existing train dispatching and control systems. So basically, these are going to be operate on their own. Nobody's going to be sitting in a room somewhere with a joystick, looking at them going down the track. They're going to go all by themselves. They can couple up with each other. They don't have standard couplers. Although they lack conventional couplers, the prototype container cars can run in platoons by touching their bumpers together. The second generation vehicle is being built to the following specifications: a battery electric traction motor powertrain, autonomous systems, fully autonomous, with bidirectional camera-based perception systems. I'm sure that's going to work just as well as those cars. Payload capacity up to 70,000 pounds with a single stack container. So basically, it's a container on an electric car. And they can couple, let's see, how many can they put together? Up to 50 cars. They can individually powered and can form platoons of up to 50 cars to reduce energy consumption and efficiently use the rail network. The platooning is fully automated. The cars don't need to couple or uncouple. They simply move close to each other and then initiate contact through bumpers to form platoons. Once contact is made, each vehicle maintains a set force with one in front by regulating tractive effort. A small air gap and pushing action through the rail bumpers reduces overall aerodynamic drag of the platoon, improving efficiency. Now, I don't know how the heck they're going to do this on railroads, with going over grade crossings. Does the camera stop the platoon if
The platoon.
Yeah, it's not a train anymore, it's a platoon. We don't even use the word train.
Is it going to have the PCA?
I don't know. It was the group that did this is former SpaceX engineers who aim to develop systems to move freight cleaner, faster, safer, and more cost-effectively than traditional trains or trucks.
Those are going to be the trains that run on the moon and in Mars.
Yeah, that's where they're going to be.
I don't know.
How far are they supposed to travel?
Let's see. They have a range of 500 miles and will be able to recharge in as little as an hour. What I'm curious is that once they get to their final destination, do they sort themselves on the tracks? Do they just pull into a track and then the containers are taken off? Is there any switching involved? Platoon, up! Break up!
And I can hear the drill sergeant.
Yeah,
at the
where's the
beginning
drill
of
sergeant? There's no drill sergeant.
So that's the news from the world of platoons. We're not talking trains anymore now. We're talking platoons.
Yes.
Okay.
Wisconsin Great Northern places the Mark Twain Zephyr back on its trucks. A rainbow formed in the sky as work neared completion on putting the 5-car set of the shovel-nosed streamliner Mark Twain Zephyr back on its rebuilt truck sets at the Wisconsin Great Northern Railway Yards Monday. This is September 12th. When the power car, Engine Joe, wonder if they're going to change that to be more politically correct.
Then that's a whole nother story.
And we don't have time for that, do we?
It was brought there 3 years ago after the railroad saved the train from certain scrapping. A double rainbow appeared over the train after the 2-day drive from the Gateway Rail Services in Madison, Illinois. It was built in 1935 as one of 9 stainless steel passenger trains for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. The train ran between Burlington, Iowa, and St. Louis until 1958. Since 1959, the train has passed through several owners with dreams to restore it to operation until the Wisconsin Great Northern completed its purchase in June of 2020. So they've been in the interim. The trucks were slow in coming. There was a delay in the rebuilding related to the custom fabricated leaf springs that were being manufactured in Minnesota. When the truck work slowed, the train's entire exterior is 90% complete, with each car having its own head-end power connections, air conditioning, and heating units, new carpeting, and seating installed. We even cooked a pizza for the staff in the rebuilt kitchen area of the Huckleberry Finn. So they're still working on getting the prime mover in. They've gotten a prime mover. Let's see. Where'd they get the prime mover from? It came from a switch engine. A new power truck came from a shovel-nose streamliner. It came for the shovel-nose streamliner from 104 Wisconsin Great Northern's EMD SW600 locomotives. Final stage of restoration is moving the six-cylinder 567 prime mover into the engine room along with generator and air compressor. The cab will also receive a control stand from the former American Can SW600, which was painted in the Chicago Northwestern Railway scheme for the Chicago Northwestern Historical Society mini-meet held in Trago during 2019. So, looks like they're going to have an actual operating
Shovel nose.
shovel nose.
I remember seeing it up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
It was stored up there being used. In fact, they had the original 201 engine.
Mm-hmm.
So, would they lose it?
I don't know. Maybe it was unsalvageable. Proposed recommendations for the future of public transit are already being met with pushback. A sweeping set of recommendations of what the Chicago area transit could look like in the future is making its way to lawmakers, with regional planners eyeing new sources of funding for the CTA, Metra, and PACE, and raising the prospect, get this, of consolidating them into one agency. Now that's a snowball in Hades chance. Basically, each CTA, Metra, and PACE are their own political entities, and not one of them is going to give up power to be merged into a single agency run by God knows who, political appointees.
No, that'll never happen.
No, it won't. But these people are they're preliminary. So the recommendations remain preliminary, of course, and will need to go through at least 2 rounds of review by Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning board members before it's sent to the governor and lawmakers by January 1st. Lawmakers will then decide how to proceed. Well, they'll decide to do nothing.
That's par for the course.
They'll bounce it around and talk about it and get a consulting thing going. And,
We'll table it.
Yeah. This to solve the very significant problems of region, business, and labor, along with all the transit advocates have to be at the table, said Julie Hamos, who was part of the committee advising CMAP on the proposals, and a former state representative who spearheaded efforts to get an overhaul of transit funding passed in 2008. You know, when it comes to money, too, none of these agencies, they all want dip their nose. They don't want to give anything to anybody else.
Mm-mm.
You know, so it's a very long article anyway. So my prediction is nothing will happen and transit will continue to deteriorate.
Well, it's like the news that they said Metra is going to run intercity.
Well, yeah, they'll be going to Rockford.
Yeah, they're going to Rockford, and they're getting all the bucks.
Yeah, but they're not. The funny thing
Amtrak is going to pay for the track redone.
Really? Oh, yeah, because they use the tracks, too. The Union Pacific is probably paying nothing.
We have no idea what they're doing. Well, I know what they are doing. They are now testing in Colorado the ground crew.
Oh, yeah.
And they did that because the union had a vote. And they even got the salary now for the one driver, $50 an hour.
Oh, for what driver? The guy who
The
drives the
rate
car?
Yeah.
What do they call them? I remember we were laughing about that. One of the shows had some really dopey name for them.
Yeah, they are
facilitators
ground facilitators, and they drive to where they're told. They're in Colorado and New Mexico.
Well, I'll tell you what else the UP is doing is they're dancing around with their money, and they're getting themselves in a lot of trouble. They've been doing stock buybacks, and instead of spending money on the railroad, they've been spending money on stock buybacks, and they are in huge debt. Huge debt.
That's why they're inspecting all their freight cars.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. The FRA is cracking down on them and saying, hey, you know what? Your maintenance stinks. You let everybody go. How do you expect to maintain freight cars and locomotives when you don't have people to repair them or inspect them? So, yeah, and then their new CEO is from the Canadian National, one of what's-his-face's underlings. And they're going for more. What's that thing that they do now? What do they call it? Where they do more with less. where they work the crews to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're basically not listening to they don't care about the rules that are written.
Right.
The last contract that stopped them from striking, they had it spelled out, and then all of a sudden they're just saying,
yeah, right.
they're using the paper in other places.
Yeah, right.
Why have a contract?
Well, that's what we always used to say. The contract is not worth anything.
Remember, you can't spell stupid without UP.
Well, there's a new federal rule that's going to fix that.
No.
Yes. Companies that have plants and facilities served by only one railroad may soon be able to get a bid from another railroad if their current service is bad enough under the new rule that was proposed Thursday to help boost competition. The Surface Transportation Board announced the long-awaited rule that has been under consideration in some form since at least 2010. Nothing like government in action. It aims to provide some relief to so-called captive shippers that only have a connection to one of the 6 giant freight railroads that deliver the vast majority of goods across North America. Many companies have complained about poor railroad service over the past couple of years as the industry worked to recover from the depths of the pandemic. The railroads have acknowledged they cut their workforces too deep in 2020 and had a hard time hiring enough workers to handle all the shipments once demand returned because of the tight labor market and quality of life concerns over railroad work. Why would anybody go to work for the railroad?
That's basically what it's come down to,
Right.
because they saw what's being done with them when they tried to hire them back.
Yeah.
Even Amtrak, they've destroyed themselves.
Yeah.
They just don't care.
No, that's it.
The people that run the railroads now are bean counters, and they have no concept of what railroading is. To them it's just numbers.
And so what they're doing, instead of bringing back the experienced people,
Yeah, right. Who don't want to come back.
no, a lot of them wanted to come back, but then after they've been passed over on the callbacks, they were bringing back all the young people so they don't have to spend money.
Right. Because they got that. They're still working on the cheap.
Yeah, they don't have track workers. You're wondering, why is the track bad?
Well, they hire outside
CSX?
contractors.
That's just it. They've hired outside contractors. CSX is getting fined. The FRA actually went out and looked at the track.
Are they doing that bad a job?
Yeah. Well, they're not doing anything.
Or they're not doing
They're just letting
anything?
it deteriorate.
Well, they do not between not doing anything and not doing it correctly. Buster Keaton can make a real good movie on some of that track work. Serious.
I remember seeing an old silent movie where the train's going like this, and somebody's throwing rocks at the train
To get the wood.
Yeah.
That was Buster Keaton.
Was it?
It just shows that they just want to run the railroad into the ground.
Well, here it says the railroads have made significant strides to improve service since the worst of
Really?
their problems in the spring of 2022 as they hired more train crews. But labor unions have questioned whether the industry's current lean operating model gives railroads enough capacity to handle all shipments safely, even after the recent hiring. The American Chemistry Council trade group that has been one of the leading advocates for the rules expressed some disappointment that the Surface Transportation Board moved away from an earlier proposal that had been more proactive. It, however, welcomed regulators establishing some clear minimum service standards for railroads that never existed before and requiring railroads to report more details about their performance. The hope is that the new service standards can help prevent the kinds of severe supply chain challenges seen during the pandemic that had consumers scrambling to find toilet paper. Well, they could have gotten, pages from the contracts. Cleaning wipes and other staples on their store shelves. I think this is really trying to get at how you get the railroads to do better and head this off in the future so that it doesn't get to the point that it becomes a problem for your everyday consumer, said Council spokesman Scott Jensen. STB Chairman Martin Oberman said it's clear to him that increasing competition in this monolithic industry, why did the government let them do it in the first place, I don't know, could do wonders for the countless companies that rely on railroads to deliver raw materials, finished products, by giving railroads another incentive to improve service. It says the rail industry is dominated by 6 major Class 1 railroads, with 2 in the West, 2 in the East, and 2 in Canada, although one of those now has tracks that cross the Midwest and connect to Mexico after a recent merger. The rule will bring predictability to shippers and will provide Class 1 carriers with notice of what is expected of them if they want to hold on to their customers who might otherwise be eligible to obtain a switching order. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Are they going to let another railroad that wins a bid go on to these Class 1 railroads' trackage to pick up the cars? Are they going to force the Class 1 railroads to switch the cars over to another railroad?
It's going to be interesting how they've pictured how it was.
They haven't figured that out that far in advance.
Little disappointed. The American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers Trade Group said it's a little disappointed that the rule would force companies to wait until service is bad to seek relief. But maybe the service standards in this rule will provide an incentive for railroads to do what they should have been doing all along, taking care of business. No, their job is to enrich the shareholders. Reciprocal switching would present railroads with a simple decision: provide better service to customers or risk losing their business to a competitor. Of course, the railroads have long opposed this idea because they're worried about the congestion that might be created by having to let either let a competing railroad come onto their network or hand off cars to the other railroad at an inconvenient location. Plus, the railroad said these rules could depress rates below market value at times. Canadian regulators have long had similar rules that allow companies to hire other railroads to deliver their goods. And in Canada, companies are eligible to seek out service from a competitor as long as they are close enough to a connection with another railroad. Canadian rules do not require companies to prove that they're getting poor service like the proposed U.S. rules. And so it goes.
Round and round.
Round and round. Norfolk Southern says a software defect, not a hacker, forced it to park its trains this week. Norfolk Southern believes a software defect, not a hacker, was the cause of widespread computer outage that forced the railroads to park all its trains for most of the day earlier this week. I don't have the date on this, but it was a little while ago. Both the railroad's primary and backup systems became unresponsive at the same time. Ooh, they had a strike. An update was made to one system, then automatically copied to the other system, allowing the defect to spread. Norfolk Southern didn't identify the vendor, except to call it a leading global technology provider. The railroad based in Atlanta reiterated that it has found no evidence that the outage was caused by an unauthorized cybersecurity incident. Norfolk Southern said it is making progress in clearing out the backlog of trains that accumulated on its network of nearly 20,000 miles of track in the eastern United States. The railroad has been working to keep its customers updated on their shipments, but said the effects of the outage could linger for a couple of weeks. Federal regulators have been scrutinizing Norfolk Southern operations ever since a fiery February train derailment in Ohio forced thousands of people to evacuate their homes because of concerns about toxic chemicals the train was carrying. The cleanup from that derailment is ongoing. A package of railroad safety reform members of Congress proposed after the Ohio derailment has stalled in the Senate and is yet to get a hearing in the Republican Control House. Well, there's a big surprise right there. Politics at work. Okay, my last thing here is that Amtrak executed a contract option to order 10 additional Amtrak Aero train sets as demand for passenger rail train travel exceeds expectations. This brings the total contract order to 83 train sets. The first Amtrak Aero train set is scheduled to debut in 2026, and these new trains will operate on routes throughout the country. So they have a need now, but they won't be able to fill it until 2026. Good job, Amtrak. But they're going to have more comfortable trains, bolder color-coded signage to identify amenities and differentiate classes of service, greener impact, modern tech. They'll have 5G Wi-Fi. So while your train's sitting in the middle of nowhere, you can talk to people. Okay, here's the train. Here's the routes they'll be on: Northeast Regional, Empire Service, Virginia Services, Keystone, Downeastern, Cascades, Maple Leaf, New Haven Springfield Service, Palmetto, Carolinian, Pennsylvanian, Vermonter, Ethan Allen Express, and the Adirondack.
Okay, when do we get past Mississippi River?
We don't. We got other trains to do that. Yeah.
They can't put together enough cars to make a train now.
I know. Well, they're going to have brand new trains, and I don't think they're going to be interchangeable with other equipment.
Probably not. Why would they want to do that?
Well, don't forget the people who are running the show.
Yeah, the airline people.
Yeah, right. That's the news from my world.
How exciting.
It is.
Laugh and look at the news.
Yeah, right.
Will the railroad be still running in
2024?
Well,
I don't know because Washington's trying to cut funding again. They want to defund Amtrak. They want to
all that money that they said they're going to give to Amtrak. No, they don't need it.
No, they don't need it. We're going to give it to somebody else. Yeah, it's going to be interesting after the 2024 election.
So there'll be a lot of bike paths.
Yeah.
What else can I say?
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll have like special bumpers on the bikes that'll automatically couple them up, and they can platoon together.
Platoon together. Okay, everybody.
Yeah.
Stand at attention.
Well, then I don't know how long this is going to be around, but yeah. Next week is actually the start on Sunday of National Rail Safety Week.
All right.
Yeah. 2023 edition. I'll be involved with setting up at the Bactana Garden in the Model Railroad section, Garden Railroad. And we'll be doing it on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if it gets real packed, I might have to open it up on Thursday.
Do they have to sign up to do this?
Well, to do it, yes.
Or to be there?
Oh, would you like to be there?
If you want me to be there, I'll help.
Well, it's one of these. You know, Ron,
What?
I get your name on the list. I got to work tomorrow morning anyway, so I got to talk to her to finish it out.
What does it involve?
Yeah,
What must Ron do?
Yeah, what must Ron do?
He's going to be our gopher.
Oh,
Ooh.
go for coffee, go for donuts.
Go for pin grease. Bring the torch.
Fireboy, get me a newspaper. I want 10 Wall Street Journals, 5 Sun Times, 6 Trips. When I worked suburban service on a Northwestern, when we take the equipment to the yard, it was my job to walk through the train and fulfill the engineer's orders for papers. And I couldn't figure out what this guy wanted all these newspapers for. Well, he was selling them at the diesel shop at half price.
No
The
kidding.
people at the shop. When I found that out, I told them, I'm running the train to the yard. You're getting your own papers. This guy was mad. I said, hey, I don't care. I said, I will not get the papers anymore, so you got a choice. If you want to continue to make money, get them yourself.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the railroad.
One way or another.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Things get more interesting and nothing is happening.
The Northwestern Eat and Scream Luncheon is coming up tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow.
oh really?
Yeah. I've been to a couple of them, and it's like, it's well attended. A lot of guys show up, and it's just noisy. So noisy. So I call it the Eat and Scream gathering. You know, basically you have to scream at people to talk to them. So, did you know Roger Wilhelmy?
Huh?
Did you know Roger Wilhelmy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the coordinator.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he coordinates the luncheon, and what's his face? The photographer, the Northwestern photographer. Actually, he's the Metro photographer.
Oh, okay.
You know him. He comes and he does a presentation after the luncheon of Northwestern images. And I told Roger, I said, well, I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. And I said, I won't be able to make it, but it's out in,
Where do they have it?
oh, God, Hoffman Estates or somewhere in the northwest suburbs. It's I can't remember. I haven't memorized it, and it's a long drive for me. I know that. You know, it's like an hour and a half.
You'd have to leave tonight.
Yeah, I could just stay here, sleep on the couch upstairs, and
You wouldn't have that far to go.
yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be halfway there.
No.
Do they was it just the luncheon? Just
Yeah, it's
just a bullshit luncheon?
Yeah, it's just that, you know, you got 100-some guys scattered throughout the restaurant, and we basically take it over. It's what is it? I'm trying to remember the name of the restaurant. Famous like Pancake House. Oh, I can't.
I have?
No.
It's just not coming to me. Walker Brothers.
Oh, okay.
So they basically take the place over. I feel sorry for the other people that come there to eat.
What do they charge?
Well, just what you pay for breakfast. I mean, there's no There's no
Oh,
fee
so you
or
pay
anything.
for your own?
Yeah, you pay for your own breakfast and lunch, whatever you want to have.
And you hear the screaming.
Yeah, you hear your former coworkers yelling at each other. They're all half deaf anyways, from for working at the railroad. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
conversations are usually held in shout level. But yeah,
Can
so
you
I've
hear
gone a
me
couple
now?
times. Huh?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, right. My wife always asks me when I leave the house, "Did you put your hearing aids on?" I'm like, "No." Don't
It
want.
makes it easier.
I don't want to hear what's going on out there. Yeah, I mean, I've run into some guys that I've worked with a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I only was there for 11 years, and then I left and did other things before I went back to the railroad, and it wasn't back to the UP. People go, "Why didn't you come back to the UP?" I'm like, I was warned in advance. Don't go to work for the UP.
That's good.
Oh, yeah, the people that work there are miserable. I mean, they're miserable everywhere, but
That's a shame.
well, the UP took over the Northwestern and ruined it. They destroyed it.
Oh yeah.
I can believe that.
Ripped up tracks left and right,
Oh, they were. They didn't want commuter service.
They didn't want you. Well, they're getting
Well,
rid of that.
all the first 3 months they were there, that West line was so tight.
Yeah. They couldn't understand why they couldn't just stop commuter trains and let the freight trains run around them. Well, we got freight to run here. They were finally, the record was set straight with them, the fact that they're being paid to run commuter trains. But yeah, they really all they wanted was the transcontinental. They didn't want anything else.
Yeah.
They didn't want the lines into Wisconsin. They ditched all those. Tore up tracks left and right. I mean, they still have some trackage in Wisconsin, but not much. Well, they still got a line to Rockford.
Yeah. Yeah. They got to use the UP line.
Yeah.
Because what it is, the train will pull out of Union Station and go through to Elgin, and then switch over to the UP line. It'll ride the Milwaukee trackage until after Elgin.
Yeah, that's another thing that's why we're looking for houses in Rockford. In anticipation of the train coming someday.
I mean,
It's not that bad of an area.
No, I like it. My wife is like, it's too far away from my family. I'm like, yeah.
there is a blessing for this.
Yeah, right. I'm too far. I said, man, we don't have any friends left here, What's the big deal? Let's just go someplace. Find a nice house in the suburbs and, live our life peacefully.
I was hoping Ron would be here.
Schmollen?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I forgot to bring this last month. This is a game called Trolley.
Oh.
What it is, I found it. It was in one of the Strasbourg gift shop.
okay.
And what it is a reprint of a card game that came out in 1904. And I think I played it once. But you got all this stuff they call trolley, and you got to come up with a couple of games, I have to go through and read this again. But you just sit there, deal everything out, and
then you
yeah, I don't know, happy passengers or.
did not pay electric bill.
You pay the electric bill there.
I have a question I want to ask you, gentlemen.
Yes.
Oh,
Today I had to take the young lad that lives with me, Oscar, to a hospital out in Berwyn. It's on Oak Park Avenue, just north of 31st Street. I forget the name of the hospital. But anyways, We got there at 1:30, and his appointment was an hour. He had to go for therapy. He came out at about 2:30, and I pulled out of the parking lot where I was parked, and all of a sudden, to my left, there's railroad tracks. It must be a freight track. As I pull out onto Oak Park Avenue, there was one train that was already going. Must have been going west. Was going west, and it seemed like that thing never was going to come to an end. And just about at the end of the first train, here comes another freight train. I was wondering, gentlemen, is there a law or is there something? I thought I heard at one time that the trains can only block traffic on a street like Oak Park Avenue or these streets for a certain amount of time.
That is correct. At one time, there was. Well, how many years ago was it? I think it was like 4 years ago. Around 20, in 19 or 20, and they were going in. The new regime came in, and they started going in with to the governments and state, because they all became state laws on the amount of time a crossing could be blocked. And they were going in, and then all of a sudden, all these millennials, they're changing all the rules.
Well, the court over
as long as the train is still moving, it can block, going even 5 miles an hour.
I think that I think the courts overruled the state jurisdiction over the railroads, and they have no recourse, even if the crossing is blocked for any period of time. And you can see this out west, where they'll have a crossing blocked for days. They'll just stop the train and they'll block the crossing. So yeah, John, it's like there's nothing. When I worked at the railroad, I had a crossing blocked, and my railroad ended up getting a fine for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the fines used to be like $10,000. Well, the big railroads didn't care. They just paid the fines. They blocked the crossings and they paid the fine. And finally, it was overruled by the courts, and now you just have to sit there and wait.
Yeah, well, that's what I did for 1/2 hour.
Yeah, bring a crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
Bring a Sudoku book.
I mean, and what really aggravated me, I was about 10 seconds sooner I would have been able to cross over the tracks. But there's the one train, and it wasn't going real fast, but it was just moving. And that was coming to an end, and then here comes another freight on the other track. I think at that location there's 3 tracks there.
That's the Burlington Northern Santa Fe main line.
Yeah, see, there was the first train was on the north track, and then the second train was on the middle track, and that thing took over a half hour before it came to an end. And I think I could have walked faster, even as crippled as I am. I could have walked faster than what that train was moving down the track.
Well, you know, that's very close to major rail yard.
Yeah.
So if you've got a train going into the yard,
yeah,
they're
right.
going to be going slow.
Yeah, right. I think the one you're talking about is right over near Mannheim Road, and I'm sitting there thinking, and here I am. I say about 75 to 100 feet away from a hospital. And what would happen if there was an ambulance that had a cardiac arrest, or had somebody in that ambulance and couldn't get across that track?
Well, you know, that's why a lot of these towns and villages have underpasses built.
Yeah.
Now, the railroads provide some money for that.
Yeah.
But most of the money comes from either the state or the federal government.
Yeah.
And we see what they're doing.
and I tell you, Oak Park Avenue. There's just a couple railroad tracks. So I only got hit by the one that was in Berwyn, but another time I had to take him to Loyola Hospital in Maywood, and oh my God, I thought I was going to see Christmas Eve come up. Every track there was a train that was going down. I think there's about 3 or 4 of them that I made every one of them. And I said to Oscar, I said, why in the hell don't they take and put these either put the traffic underground, or with an underpass, or put the trains with an underpass. But it's very aggravating to sit there and knowing that you got an appointment and the clock is ticking away and the trains are just moving along. It was very upsetting today, and I thought years ago. I remember years ago there was an ordinance or a law that they can only block the crossing just for so long. But boy, it sure wasn't today. I tell you that much.
What was it, 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
I think it was 10.
Yeah, it was between 10 and 15 minutes.
Yeah, but again, like you said, as long as it was moving,
Oh yeah,
it wasn't blocking the crossing.
yeah.
Once it stopped, it was blocking the crossing.
Well, that's what it is when they were coming back. When they turned over the law, as long as the train was moving,
right.
it could be blocked for a half hour.
Right.
Well, it was it was very. It took me. I left the house here at 1:00. I got to the hospital at 1:30. But leaving the hospital, I left there at 2:30. I didn't get home until almost 3:45, 4 o'clock. It was just very frustrating to know. Of course, I was in a hurry because I wanted to get home to get things ready for tonight, and but I was just wondering if what our great people in Washington, what they have in their mind when they come up with that. Like I said, they're gonna, and that's a hospital, and I can't think of the name of the hospital to save my soul. But anyways, it's a trauma center, and if they had an ambulance come down there, that thing would have sat there, and the poor patient in the back would have been questionable what their status was.
Well, I imagine the emergency vehicles know different routes. Like there's got to be somewhere on that route an underpass.
But even if you're going south, Oak Park Avenue, you got a train crossing. First Avenue, you have a train crossing. If you go on to Fifth Avenue, you have another train crossing. So I mean, you got to know.
So there's no underpasses along.
No, I mean, so you got to know exactly about when these trains are gonna.
You won't.
You don't. In the morning the commuter trains are running, but they usually
they're there and gone.
They're there and gone. So I mean, it's unless a freight train comes through, then you're screwed.
I think next Wednesday when I have to take him for therapy again, I think my best bet would be taking Mannheim Road to Roosevelt Road, and then go east on Roosevelt Road to Oak Park Avenue, and then go to the hospital, because I'll be missing. No, I won't be either. I'll be still hitting the same track.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have to figure that out for next time I take him next Wednesday.
Yeah. See, like you said, freights are. You gotta pick your time.
Yeah.
You live in the Chicago terminal zone.
Yes, you darn right you do.
I mean, I live on the south side, and I have to deal with the CSX. That they have 2 crossings that I have to deal with them. IHB, Indiana Harbor Belt. In fact, I had to wait for an intermodal train on the way here, crossing over. So yeah, it's everywhere.
Today has been a very disgusting day for me. 3:30 this morning. Yeah, the airplane start, and yesterday the plane started at 3:30 in the morning, And I tell you, I can sit on my front steps and I can look straight up and see if the pilot or had his shoes off, I could see the bottom of his feet. And that went on until almost midnight last night. One every minute. A plane went over this house yesterday, and today isn't any better. I called the village of Norwich, and I said, what can we do about it? What can we do? I said, you know what I told him today? I said, you seem like you don't. I said, take the people that are involved in this stuff and to cut their taxes by about $3,000-4,000. That shut her up. But it is very, 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 very. I tell everybody, the village of Norwich, which we are in, is a damn good village for deaf people. Between the airplanes and the punks that ride up and down this street with their head on backwards, doing 40, 50 miles an hour down Ottawa with their loud mufflers, dogs barking, on Wednesday morning starting at 7:30 until about noon. You got lawnmowers going because everybody on this block here has landscape service. So
John, it sounds like my neighborhood.
Yeah, I've been up.
But John, you think they fly over my house just as much as and that. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I've got Midway in
Where,
our neighborhood.
whereabouts do you live, Ron?
6 corners.
Oh, yeah.
They fly from the south to to east, and So I just live with it. I just
Well,
it is what it is.
After a while, it gets on your nerves and gets very frustrating. I tell you.
I don't let that bother me.
When I was more active, and I was doing stuff out in the yard, fixing up my lights in the yard, and working down here in the studios or doing something, it didn't bother me. But now that all I do all day long is sit in my wheelchair in the front window or front door and listen to these cars going down the street and airplanes going overhead and dogs barking, and oh my God, I tell you, like I said, Norwich is a damn good village for deaf people. And I'll tell that to the mayor next time I see him.
He's not going to do nothing for
Oh, of course
you.
not.
He's probably deaf too.
Yeah.
So quit your bitching.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one sad note.
Uh-oh.
What's that?
Saturday will be the last day open for Chicagoland Hobbies.
Oh.
They closed their doors.
Wasn't one of our panelists work there? Didn't he work?
Yeah,
he's been working there the last month.
You want to know something, gentlemen? When that man opened up the front doors of that store, I put in the phone system there. I was retired from Illinois Bell. I started up my own business, J&R Communications, and I put the phones in that store. The phone system was up on the second floor, and I ran wires all over the place for the phones in that place. And I'm very and I worked and I worked right next door.
They sold the building.
He sold the building, and nobody would wanted to buy the business.
Now I was going to tell you something, people. In the front was Chicagoland Hobby. In the back of the property, there was a big garage back there, and there were 3 brothers that worked on that property. The one brother had repaired automobile cars. It was a car repair, and I had mine repaired them many times. And then the other brother, he had burglar alarms and these specialty driving stuff, and they were all on that property. And then the one brother, he moved out to Schiller Park, and he moved his business. And all 3 brothers, all 3 of them, I put their phone systems in all 3 of them. And when the one Dave Bosek, when he moved out to Schiller Park, I put his phone system out there, and when the other brother moved over on Northwest Highway in Harlem, I had to put in the spotlights and all the specialties that you wanted in your car. I put the phone systems in there for them too. Now this one here, now he's closing down and moving out.
All three brothers still own the building together.
Yep. And right next door to where Chicagoland Hobby is, that's where I started. September 1st, 1957. That was Illinois Bill's officer switching.
Oh, the
center.
one on the corner there.
That's right. That's where I started. Yep.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's time to go home.
Time to go home?
I believe it is time to go home. This train is pulling into the station.
Chugga, chugga, chugga. You had no news tonight, did you, Mr. Bryan?
He brought his.
Oh, he kept going.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're not. That's good.
I have been here for
You had to get it out of
a couple shows. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You had to get it out.
All
of
these things can be found on our Facebook page, Chicago Junction. So, that's where all the news is. I didn't bring all the news in. I could have brought a lot of news in.
you. No, I know you could have.
Could have brought Ron Smolin's news in.
Yeah. He has some good stuff sometimes. As our train pulls into the station and our show comes down to a close. For those listening, I want to thank you for tuning in to Chicago Junction. Please tune in again next month when we'll try again. And may mayhem don't follow us. You have a good night, Ron, and hope your open house is fine for you.
Thank you.
He'll be there.
I'll be there.
Ron, in closing, what's the address of their doings they're going to have Sunday?
4936 West Bernice.
Okay, thank you. You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, September the 13th, the year 2023. So Chicago Junction was produced and directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chiconda. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening.